Our topic today is the plagues of Egypt. We're all familiar with the plagues of Egypt, and we have probably read it a couple of times. This is just a review. Okay, in Exodus 7, verse 7 to 11, and Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 80 years old when they spake unto Pharaoh. So there is a 3 year difference between Moses and Aaron, not much. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, When Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, Show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, Take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh, and they did as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servant, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called his wise men and sorcerer, and now the magicians of Egypt, they also did like manner with their enchantment. So here, before Moses could go to Egypt, when the Lord calls him in Mount in the mountain, Oreb. So Moses was asking God, "How am I going to bring the children out of Israel? I'm just by myself, and the Egypt is the most powerful nation of the world." And if you read what the Lord was telling Moses in Exodus chapter 4, he said, What is your hand? It's the rod. That's all you need. I'll be with you. And, you just go. So there are other things that Moses was also asking the Lord, because one of the things that he was saying that he's not a good speaker. But, the Lord told him that Aaron would be his spokesman. It's the same thing in these last days. We're fighting against principalities, against power, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. And the Lord calls us to fight the spiritual battle. Our weapon would be the sword of the Spirit. And God has promised also that, Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. In Genesis 41, verse 8, this was during the time of Joseph. The pagan nations during those times always depend on the magicians, the sorcerers. This was during the time of Joseph. And it came to pass in the morning, this is the Pharaoh, that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there is none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. So Pharaoh was given a dream by God. Now, Pharaoh was asking his magicians and sorcerer what it means. Now, the Lord does not send his message to the representative of Satan. He has to send it to his own representative. And so that's the reason why the magicians and the sorcerers, they have no idea what was the dream. And the same thing during the time of Daniel. In Daniel chapter 1, verse 20, in all manners of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. Now compare the intelligence of Daniel and the magicians. Daniel and his friends are 10 times more better than the astrologers and the magicians of Babylon. It's the same thing during the time of Moses. Although the magicians were able to produce snakes or serpents, the serpent of Moses and Aaron is more powerful from God because it ate all the serpents of the Egyptian magicians. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 2, then the king, this is now King Nebuchadnezzar, commanded to call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to show the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king. And the story goes to that they could not tell the king what was the dream and the interpretation thereof, because they are not the representative of God. They are the representative of Satan, and God cannot what communicate his message to them. In Exodus chapter 7, verse 12 to 19, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents, but Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out to the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink. Against he come, and the rod which was turned to a serpent thou shalt take in thine hand. And thou shalt say unto him, the Lord God of Hebrews hath sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord, in this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of water of the river. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, and upon the streams, and upon the rivers, and upon their ponds, and upon all the pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout the land of Egypt, both in the vessels, the wood, and the vessels of stone. In Patriarchs and Prophets, page 265, paragraph 1, Moses and Aaron were directed to visit the river side next morning, where the king was accustomed to repair. The overflowing of the Nile being the source of food and wealth for all Egypt, the river was worshipped as a god, and the monarch came thither daily to pay his devotion. Here the two brothers again repeated the message to him, and then they stretched out the rod and smoothed upon the water. And the sacred stream ran blood. The fish died, and the river became offensive to the smell. The water in the houses, the supply preserved in cistern, was likewise changed to blood. But the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantment. And Pharaoh turned and went to his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. For 7 days the plague continued, but without effect. So first and second plague, no effect. The Pharaoh hardened his heart. But the point is that God of heaven is always more powerful than the magicians. Here is an example in the experience of Paul. Acts chapter 16, verse 16 to 19. And it came to pass, as we went to pray, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination, here is a damsel possessed with the spirit of Satan, met us, which brought her master much gain by saying, so this damsel apparently has master, and the master are making money because of her divination. The same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. This did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said unto the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out of her same hour. And when her master saw that the hope of their gain was gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers. Here, the damsel here, she was telling the people that these people, the Paul and Silas, were servants of God, and they were preaching the Lord, but Paul did not like it because of her prophecy. People will be thinking that Paul and Silas were of the same spirit that comes from Satan, because the lady was possessed with the Satan, and so he rebuked the spirit, and the devil left her. That means that God of heaven is more powerful than the power of Satan. In letter 31, 1991, paragraph 4, how does the Lord harden the hearts of men? In the same way in which the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, God sent this king a message of warning and mercy, but he refused to acknowledge the God of heaven and would not render obedience to his command. He asked, "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice?" Exodus 5, verse 2. The Lord gave him evidence of his power by working signs and miracles before him. The great I am acquainted with Pharaoh and his mighty works, showing him that he was the ruler of heaven and earth. But the king chose to defy the God of heaven. He would not consent to break his proud, stubborn heart even before the King of Kings, that he might receive the light. For he was determined to have his own way and work out his rebellion. He chose to do his own will and set aside the command of God and the very evidence given him that Jehovah was above all gods of nation, above all the wise men and magicians, only served to blind his mind and harden his heart. So it's the same thing with other people or with us. If we do not listen to the counsel of God, then we might be like Pharaoh, because we have the evidence in the counsel of God and we refuse to listen to it. Exodus 4, verse 9, and it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon dry land. Here was the instruction of God to Moses in Exodus chapter 4 before he left for Egypt. Those are the things that the Lord has planned to do to the Egyptian, so that the Egyptian will allow the children of Israel to live and to sacrifice for him. In Exodus chapter 7, verse 20 to 25, and Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptian could not drink the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magician of Egypt did so with their enchantment, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. And Pharaoh turned and went to his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians dig around about the river for water to drink, but they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days were fulfilled. After that, the Lord had smitten the river. So there was a 7 day of what? Blood in the water of all the Egyptians, all throughout Egypt. And I wonder, how would the people drink during those times? Because anything,
there's nothing to drink.
because anything that they have, it turned to blood. Otherwise, they could have drank the blood. In Review and Herald, December 7, 1891, paragraph 1, we are told that the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. The repeated refusal of the king to hear the word of the Lord called forth direct and more urgent and forceful messages. At its rejection of light, the Lord manifests